Hello there, this is the World News at 12 on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. My name is Ijeoma Innocent.
I am Kayla Abraham, and these are the top stories. EFCC probes 50 accounts linked to humanitarian ministry. NLC nullifies Labour Party's National Convention, sets up transition committee.
Federal government deploys apps to monitor ministers' performance, and Shaibu rains curses on Edo lawmakers over impeachment. On the foreign scene, Israeli Prime Minister sets date for Rafah offensive. Details now. Thank you for staying with us. The World News at 12 begins with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, probing 50 bank accounts as it recovered 30 billion naira in the alleged scandals on the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. The EFCC chairman, Ola Olukwede, who disclosed this in an interview published in the March edition of EFCC Alert, an in-house magazine of the anti-graft agency, also called for special courts for corruption cases. Olukwede in the publication said the recovered fund was in the federal government coffers. The EFCC is currently investigating alleged scandals in the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry involving the suspended minister Betta Edo, her predecessor Sadia Umar Farouk, and Ms. Halima Shehu, the national coordinator of the National Social Investment Program, an agency under the Humanitarian Ministry. You will recall that Betta Edo was in January suspended by President Bola Tinubu following an alleged fraud in her ministry. Meanwhile, the Nigeria Labour Congress has declared the National Convention of the Labour Party that re-elected Julius Abure as the party's national chairman null and void. The decision was reached at a stakeholders meeting held on Monday in Abuja. A communique issued after the meeting directed the NLC to establish a transition committee to oversee the party's affairs until new officers are elected within 3 months. The meeting, attended by notable figures, highlighted the need for an all-inclusive and expansive national convention. The stakeholders expressed the need for more confidence in the leadership purportedly elected at the convention held in Nnewi, Anambra State, and deemed it inconsequential. Meanwhile, protesters took to the streets in Gudu, Abuja on Monday, backing the national chairman of the Labour Party, Julius Abure, and condemning what they perceived as interference by the Nigeria Labour Congress NLC in the party's internal affairs. VP News gathered that the protesters carrying placards with various inscriptions started their march from the newly established Abuja chapter secretariat. The NLC had accused Abure of acting as the sole administrator of the affairs of the party. Consequently, the NLC passed a vote of no confidence in the leadership of the party's national chairman and called for his resignation.
In a recent development, the federal government has introduced a delivery tracker app empowering citizens to monitor and assess the performance of all ministries by viewing their deliverables and key performance indicators (KPIs). VOP News understands the initiative aims to promote inclusive governance and accountability, allowing citizens to provide feedback directly to the government. The launch of the Delivery Tracker app was officiated by Hadiza Bala Usman, Special Advisor to the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on Policy and Coordination and Head of the Policy Coordination and Delivery Unit (CDCU). Bola Usman said, and I quote, "All ministers will be held accountable for deliverables to the citizens. In arriving at the deliverables and key performance indicators, the CDCU, supported by development partners and consultants, held numerous bilateral meetings with all the ministers, permanent secretaries, and their respective technical teams over a period of 6 weeks." End quote. Impeached Deputy Governor of Edo State, Philip Shaibu, has vowed to seek redress, declaring that he will fight what he termed an injustice for the sake of Edo State and the future of democracy. He also described his impeachment as illegal and a threat to the foundation of a democracy. You will recall that Shaibu was removed from office on Monday by the Edo State House of Assembly following the adoption of report by Justice S.A. Omonua-led 7-man panel, which investigated allegations on misconduct against him. However, Shaibu, who reacted to the development through his official X handle vowed to fight the injustice. He noted that as for the members of Edo State House of Assembly who have chosen to forsake their oath of office and participate in the charade, history would judge them for their betrayal of the people who elected them to represent them. Continuing, Shaibu, who called on the judiciary to intervene, expressed confidence that the legal system will vindicate him and expose what he called the sham that has been orchestrated against him.
With just 9 days to the People's Democratic Party's PDP's National Executive Committee meeting, about 60 members of the National Assembly elected and the party's platform have called for the removal of its acting national chairman, Umar Damagum, led by Honorable Imo Ikenga Oguchinyere. The lawmakers claimed Damagum was involved in anti-party activities. The party's National Executive Council meeting is scheduled to hold on April 18, while that of the Board of Trustees follows in quick succession. Addressing journalists on Monday in Abuja and the state of the party, the group said it would also not hesitate to take legal actions if the party's meeting failed to hit their demand for Damagum's removal or alternatively resign their membership of the PDP. Meanwhile, minority leaders of the House of Reps, drawn from all opposition parties, have disowned the 60 lawmakers who called for the resignation of the PDP's acting national chairman for alleged anti-party activities. Well, now joining us to discuss this and other issues on the World News at 12 this afternoon, we have Mr. Akin Fatike. He is a chartered accountant as well as a political, social and national affairs analyst. Welcome to the World News at 12, Mr. Fatike. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much, Chairman. And I'd like to say good afternoon to our listeners. Nice to hear.
Good afternoon to you as well. So today we're going back in time. We're going literally back to January when the issue of a Better Edo more or less broke the airwaves. So the EFCC is saying it is probing about 50 accounts linked to the humanitarian ministry. We know the whole issue with Better Edo, how she was interrogated by the EFCC after a leaked memo revealed that she had directed the Accountant General of the Federation to transfer 585 million naira to a private account, saying it was for grants for vulnerable persons. Now, her predecessor as well, which was the person who was the minister in this ministry before her, Sadiya Umar Farouk, was also being quizzed by the EFCC investigators in the same January in connection with the probe into about 37.1 billion naira allegedly laundered during her tenure in office. Apart from both of them, apart from Better Edu and Sadiya Umar Farouk, the national coordinator of, the National Social Investment Program is also being probed over alleged scandals in the ministry. It would seem that the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry it's easy to siphon funds from there. But the EFCC is saying we've discovered about 50 accounts linked to the humanitarian ministry which they used to siphon funds, and we are probing them. But here is the question, Mr. Fatanke. We've been hearing about Better Edu. She's been probed, she's been interrogated. At what point should we expect prosecution to begin? Because many Nigerians have been asking, okay, you've arrested her, right? Okay, she's been interrogated. When will she be charged to court? When will there be prosecution on this case, right? When we will stop our media trial and actually take it into a court?
Good question. You call it Humanitarian Affairs Ministry. I call it Inhumanitarian Affairs Ministry, created in this dispensation. When I say this dispensation, I talk about the APC government dispensation starting from Muhammadu Buhari, which President Bola Tinubu has inherited to be a cesspit, please pardon me, a cesspit to want to carry a beautiful face, in quotes, an inhuman and callous disposition towards anything that you can call milk of human kindness. So having said that, can we then look at Better Edu, somebody who virtually rose through the ranks from nowhere, found herself somewhere, a lady and a youth, dissipated that ingloriously. You asked me the question, when is she, or when are they? Because there are more than the three that you have mentioned. When are they going to really face prosecution? The hands of justice grind slowly, but they grind very well. William Longfellow is the one I'm putting there, who eventually get there. Yes, though it seems very slow, but with exactitude, it grinds them all. Over time, the EFCC, perhaps the ICPC, rushed to prosecution, didn't have enough points to nail, and everything slips through the crack. I know that has happened. While I do not have 100% knowledge about what is going on in terms of the prosecution, but if she was invited by EFCC, the process of prosecution has started in earnest. And if allegedly that amount of money has been recovered from her, is it pre-bargaining? Is it something that she has just been released? I have barely shown the humanitarian aspects of this, my analysis.
Mr. Fatuke.
But I go a bit brutal. So now then say beyond that, should also be prosecution and punishment. My hope is that there is not going to be an underhand deal whereby, unfortunately, I say it again, that's the human aspect of me that tells you that she's going to find her way back into that ministry. That would be a great disservice to you, Chioma, you, the broadcaster, Chioma, and you also a young lady. It would be a great disservice to me, Aki, the broadcaster, because we want to begin to say that the bad examples will be rewarded. I think where we have a sense of shame, the better Edu herself and her cohorts will recognize the fact that the game is over. There can always be another time, any other time after she serves a sentence and a punishment. But most unfortunate, this has happened. Now,
Mr. Fatuke, you said already being with the EFCC, being invited by the EFCC or being interrogated means that the process of prosecution has already begun. But what we're talking about here is the EFCC said they've recovered 30 billion naira and it's in the federal government coffers. Let's not even talk about what that money will go into. And they said there are 50 bank accounts under investigation. Better Edu was not there for up to a year or even, I don't think, about 6 months before all of these allegations are coming up, and she's not been probed alone. Her predecessor, Sadiya Umar Farouk, is also being probed. Has it come to the point where we have to scrap the humanitarian ministry because it seems like it's not even doing what it was created to do? If you say it's supposed to be humanitarian ministry, but what we are seeing here is inhumanitarian behavior from the people who are heading these ministries.
Oh, certainly. I go back, Chairman. Please get me right. Yes, investigation has begun. You are right. Conviction. You have to investigate before you convict. It's getting slow, and I can understand why you are saying.
Are you with us, Mr. Fatuke? Are you there, Mr. Fatuke? We seem to be experiencing some network glitches at the moment, but we'll try to reach Mr. Fatuke one more time, and so he can be involved in the conversation again. But while we're waiting for that, Kayla, I don't know if you understand, the questions I'm trying to ask Mr. Fatuke here. Yeah. He's saying that the fact that she has been invited by the EFCC, or she's been, questioned by the EFCC, means that the process of prosecution has already begun. But what we are having here, is it not more or less of a media trial? Because, today they said we've recovered 30 billion. Tomorrow they said, we've seen 50 bank accounts linked to it. Yeah. At what point does she go to court? Mr. Fatuke, welcome back to the conversation.
Yeah, sorry, the thing went on. So at what point it's like a relay? Choma is like a relay, 4x4. Nigeria did very well. The first leg went very well. The second leg, well, small. you do not get to know when you get a winner or when you stand for conviction until you've run the whole gamut. And the whole gamut has to be run. It becomes slow, but it has to be diligent. While you are doing that, you can even know from the very first leg whether you stand a chance, a prediction, all things being equal, like economists say, that you are going to really come out well. Now, if amounts of money during investigation have been found that should not belong, of course, naturally, EFCC will come out and say they've done that, but their job is not finished.
Okay.
Get to the end of all the prosecutions, round up all the accomplices, and then, of course, then charge them to court.
All right, Mr. Fatuke.
It is that charging to court that we are all waiting for, and we cannot jumpstart it. Else, we might be perverting justice.
All right, Mr. Fatuke, a final question on this case for you is, so far, how do you rate this government in the fight against corruption?
Oh, sorry, please come again. What did you say?
I said I want to know how you rate the government in the fight against corruption.
This present administration.
Present administration.
Oh, okay. I think it's low. I think it's corruption. Not only is fighting back. I think some good moves have been made. You know, the Obaze's report, CBN, quite a number of people have been laid out, but I think it's relatively slow. If you ask me, therefore, to do a rating between 0% and 100%, I think for an early start, I will give it about 20-25%.
All right. Okay, Mr. Fatuke, well, we'll be moving on to the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Labour Party now. Well, the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, has declared the National Convention of the Labour Party that re-elected Julius Abure as the party's national chairman null and void. Well, the meeting, attended by notable figures, highlighted the need for an all-inclusive and expansive national convention. In fact, the stakeholders expressed a need for more confidence in the leadership purportedly elected at the convention and deemed it inconsequential. At this point, I mean, we've seen the protest that happened in Abuja yesterday, and they were backing the national chairman of the Labour Party, Julius Abure. Now, the NLC is accusing Abure of acting as the sole administrator of the affairs of the Labour Party. And now the public has started getting captivated by this friction between the two organizations, and questions are even arising about the legality of the National Labour Congress actions towards Labour Party and the underlying causes and implications of their dispute. Now, Mr. Fatuke, the Labour Party is enmeshed by the intervention of the Nigerian Labour Congress through its political movement, being a registered trustee of the Labour Party. Well, in the view of the decisions of the stakeholders meeting, especially the aspect that concerns nullifying the convention and the end to Abure's regime, what does this portend for the Labour Party as a whole?
I think it's a whole mismatch. So as it is in Labour Party, it's with the PDP. The PCB is with the APC. What I have not seen, and I'm going to be brutally frank here, is the kind of leadership that I expect. I'm sorry I'm not getting that kind of leadership. It can be a leadership that can throw you into the gutters, or the leadership that will bind. Politics is not a tea party. Again, if you try to unbundle them, Mr. Peter Obi, the obedience movement, came and saw Labour Party as a vehicle that they could use. So, fair deal. I mean, it could have been any other party that they decide to port into. But getting in there, recognition must be made that that party had existed before the movement. There's a difference between the movement and the party. And the area I am not exactly too pleased with is the posture of Mr. Peter Obi in the whole of this. He cannot continue to sit on the fence and believe that he will be able to, get the chestnut out of fire. He will have to get his hand dirty.
What would you advise
Now,
Peter Obi to do in this situation?
I will advise him as a leader of the party. As did you hear me? A leader. I'm not saying the leader. As a leader of the party that has brought a lot of vibrancy and motion into the Labour Party, to call all the parties together. Nigerian Labour Congress, Abure, Apapa, call everybody together on a round table and be clear. Now, when you call people together, does it mean that it's going to be the end of the story? No, it may not necessarily be the end of the story, but everybody knows where you stand. And everybody galvanizes to where you stand. That is what happened to Buhari, like him or dislike him. That's what happened to Jagaban, like him or dislike him. He needs to make that point. Otherwise, it means that he is making himself to be a bird of all feathers. That if the place is not fine enough, that they can port to some other place as a movement. I also recognize, in fairness, that the movement is not the party. But the Constitution of Nigeria says you cannot win elections by movement. It has to be through a party. And until when that is done, he has to come out straight. He cannot be speaking with both sides of the mouth on this matter. I'm sorry, but that is putting it very, very, very mildly.
All right.
Yes. At the end of the day, he may get his big fingers burnt, and the movement might disown him and stuff like that. For where? It's not the first time, it's not the second time. But then he will have been able to, through character, coming out and saying that the Labour should go and sort out their thing. In my honest opinion, it's not being fatherly, and it's not showing leadership, and it's not too late for him to do that.
All right. Let's come to this administration, right? The federal government has deployed an application like the ones you have on your phone, is like your WhatsApp application and whatnot. They say they introduced, it's called the Delivery Tracker app. Now, this is to enable and empower citizens to monitor and assess the performance of all ministries and, of course, ministers by viewing their deliverables and their key performance indicators. That's their KPIs. That is, you as a Nigerian, you can go to this app, you can rate your ministers,
rate their performances to know if they are doing well. And I just want to ask, is this laudable? Is this something we should be happy about? Because we did not have a say in the appointment of these ministers. Right? Nobody came to Nigerians and asked, who do you think is a good fit to be Minister of Interior, to be Minister of Labour, to be Minister of Power? In fact, as it is right now, the Minister of Power has been called the Minister of Darkness by someone else. And why should Nigerians be the ones to come and say, okay, this minister is doing well or he's not even doing well? How many Nigerians even know the names of their ministers for different, ministries and industries? Is this a laudable development, or is this, are we really just deceiving ourselves?
Okay, tough one. And I'll give you 3 answers. 1, no venture taking, no venture lost. You do not even take a step, even if it's a step in the right or wrong direction, and you expect you are going to get something. Okay, now, if it was a step that you took in the wrong direction, you can learn. You can learn your folly and come back to square A and begin to do again. But not wanting to do or putting something across, to me, is like, in a manner of speaking, trying to get the same results from doing the same thing. So, that is that. The concept of scorecards, as we have in private sector, is something similar to that. People appraise you, your line manager, even your guard can appraise you. They want to know exactly how you feel. And it's an aspect of citizen participation, which is the next point that I want to raise. So, but then, Chairman, if you gift me a Rolls Royce, my God, there is so much requirement, but you give it to me, I will say thank you. But on what road am I going to ride the Rolls Royce? On this kind of road, I can put it on the road, I cannot even afford. the fuel could be attacked here and there. Is it fit for purpose in a way? That's my third point.
Okay.
And therefore, I am saying we've gone this way before. I commend Ms. Balaz Usman. He needs to do scorecard. He needs to get feedback. Don't forget that we already had the whistleblower. Okay, I mean, people can write petitions here and there, even if it is frivolous. But to say that not to introduce it, some people don't know about it. The item then gets to know about it. It's now an avenue for you, and I think we should even dovetail it back to the subnationals and the local government, to your ward level, to your church level, I dare say NGOs. So, whether at the end of the day we are going to be able to get the kind of, what do you call it now, benefits we are going to get from it, let's put the food in our mouth. Let's see if it's going to taste well.
Then we can know how it tastes. So thank you so much, Mr. Akinfatuke, for joining us on the World News at 12 this afternoon. Honestly, your presence, your input, your analysis has made all the difference, and really, really, really appreciate you. To have a wonderful day.
I do appreciate you, Chairman. I appreciate the voice of the people and our listeners.
Thank
Please
you so much.
Bountiful holiday.
Thank you, and have a great day as well. Unfortunately, Kayla, the holiday more or less does not concern us, but let's actually talk about this concept of, deploying an app to monitor ministers' performance. I'm standing on the fact that many Nigerians don't even know their ministers. Yeah. But I quite agree with what Mr. Akinfatuke said when he said, okay, now Nigerians would be more involved in not just the political process, but the governing process as well, where people get to know who their ministers are, who their leaders, the local government chairman are. But maybe we should have started from the grassroots, from the local government level. What do you say?
I think so. And, we have seen the performances of other governments. I really am more concerned of how effective this will be. Like you said, Nigerians don't even know some of these ministries and the ministers appointed in these ministries. So I would like to know how effective this will be, and how, the citizens will begin to, react and implement this.
While we are at it, can we have an app, or can we have a section of the app that will be able to rate the presidency? We'll be able to rate governors, right? We'll be able to rate the present administration and on different fronts. So we'll be able to rate them on the fight against corruption, rate them on food security. I was going to say that
the corruption part, we'll be able to rate these situations like with the better edu.
Situation. Yes. So while we are at it, let's make it an all-encompassing app. Let's not just rate ministers and their ministries. Like there are ministries like the Ministry of Petroleum. You have one minister for oil. You have another one for gas.
I also have a question for you, Chema. Do you think this will also be a way for Nigerians to misuse? I mean, you're known for overdoing things sometimes. So when you see this app,
when you talk about overdoing, you say Nigerians like to speak their minds. Right, yes. They might be a little bit harsh with it, but yes, they like to speak their mind. But most of these apps, you can't just go on there and type what you want. They will tell you, tick this and tick that. Yes. They would also always have options. But yes, when it comes to that, if you want to do that, make it all encompassing. Let's be able to rate the presidency. Let's be able to rate our state governors, our local government chairmen, not just the ministers. And because many of us know our governors better than ministers. There are so many ministries, like humanitarian ministry that came up during the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari. Talking about the humanitarian ministry, actually, in a minute, do you think it should be scrapped? Because predecessor,
like Mr. Fatuke
minister, will suspend what's going on?
Inhumane and inhumanitarian behavior. At this point, we need to also question the ministry and question the people appointed.
Why do you have 50 bank accounts linked to the ministry? Like, what is going
really
on?
Appalling. It's very appalling.
More than appalling. The conversation will continue later. Right now, we'll be taking news on the foreign scene.
Now, the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said Israel has set a date for its planned offensive in Gaza City, Rafah. His government has been signaling its intentions to launch a military operation in the southern city, where more than 1.5 million Palestinians are sheltering for several weeks. Netanyahu said the planned offensive was necessary for the elimination of terrorist battalions there. World leaders have urged Israel not to go ahead with a plan for weeks, and a joint intervention today The leaders of Egypt, France, and Jordan warned Israel that the offensive would have dangerous consequences and threaten regional escalation. On Monday, the Israeli leader said a date to begin the Rafah offensive had been agreed internally but provided no further details.
Well, that's it on the world news at 12. Just before we wrap up, let's bring you up to speed on the top stories again. You heard that the EFCC has probed 50 accounts linked to the humanitarian ministry. NLC nullifies Labour Party's National Convention, sets up Transition Committee.
Federal government deploys apps to monitor ministers' performance, and Shaibu rains curses on Edo lawmakers over impeachment. On the foreign scene, Israeli Prime Minister sets date for Rafah offensive. And that is a wrap on the world news at 12. My name is Kayla Abraham.
And I am Ijeoma Innocent. Please follow our social media handles at VOP903FM. Good afternoon and thank you for listening. Do stay tuned. Up next is Matters with Ikami Judea.
This is the station that gives you a voice.